this guitar make me look fat?
You're on, buddy.
And so it begins.
You gonna do your little bit here to start off? Would you start us off with a tune? Then I'll introduce you as being the rock star that you are.
You're not gonna play with me?
I could. Is this the one you were noodling with just a minute ago?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay. And then we'll tell you all about it afterward. Well, why don't you tell the kids what this is? First off, friends, hi, Eric Andreas, your Guitar Sage here. 5/22. It's May the 22nd. It's the Guitar Show, and I'm with Bart Allmand, my good friend.
Hello, my friend.
Great guitar player. This guy has so many stories, it's not even funny. Songwriter. You'll know some of his songs. We're going to talk about him. He's going to play one here in just a minute. And a record promoter. So we've never had a record promoter on here. We're going to learn what the heck that even means. We're going to be asking you lots of questions. And I'll give his long introduction here in just a moment. But would you start off the show with a little something?
Absolutely.
And would you tell us what this is so the kids at home know what we're talking about
This
here?
is a song that the Brooks and Dunns recorded. And it was called, I guess it still is called, You Can't Take the Honky Tonk Out of the Girl. And this was my first cut ever. And the first time I ever wrote with Bob DiPiero.
Mm-hmm.
And it went to #1, and it won a Grammy for them for Best Country Performance, which I've never even seen that Grammy. But
Nice.
what are you going to do?
Nice.
Anyway, I'll play a little bit of it. Just in time for the rehearsal dinner. Crazy Connie wasn't wearing any shoes. Yeah, he lives in LA, lives in New York City. Now woman's been around the world. You can take that girl out of the honky tonk, but you can't take the honky tonk. Take the honky tonk. Can't take the honky tonk out of the girl.
All right.
That was beautiful.
And so, friends, I'm going to give you the long version here of who this guy is. So hang with me here for just a minute because he's got a really interesting story. The guy comes from Nebraska. This is the first time that so Bart and I are buddies. He's written with my wife a lot. The songwriting community is fairly small. And so we've been buddies for quite a while. This is the first time ever that I've seen Bart in long pants. So he's dressed up today. He's from Nebraska, and he's got some weird blood that where he's just constantly hot. And so we've literally had the fans going the whole time. So hails from Nebraska, came from a musical family, right? Played drums and guitar. I like you guys to know the whole story here so that the questions that you have might be more tailored specifically for Bart today, right? Obsessed with the music industry, in 1987 he moved to Nashville, Tennessee to attend Belmont University, my alma mater as well,
Absolutely.
and Melissa's. So it seems to be the university that draws so many people in. Chris, who's at the board right now, also attended Belmont and is attending it right now.
Great place to meet a lot of other people that are in the same position that you are.
Yeah, and it's right at the end of Music Row.
Yep.
In fact, began his career on 16th Avenue, which Belmont is literally butts right up against 16th Avenue. Working in promotion, secondary markets. Well, he might explain some of that today. Worked with Charlie Pride and Canyon, which became Lonestar later on. Has been in many bands. One of them is Asfault Jungle, where they were playing 100 shows-ish a year. Going for the golden ring, the Rockstar golden ring in the mid 80s, right?
Turns out that ring is a little
further than it is.
That fell off my Palomino reaching for it. Didn't work.
He's hired by RCA Records, Midwest promotion manager. Worked with bands like Alabama, Clint Black, Martina McBride, Restless Heart, Don Williams, KT Oslin, Robert Ellis. Some of these names you guys might know. In 1994, Bart formed Third Coast Entertainment.
Just real quick.
Yes.
Robert Ellis Oral
Mm-hmm.
claimed that I am one of the best guitar holders he's ever met.
I love that. I love that because those are rare.
Well, yeah, especially in this town.
Everybody wants to play them and be good.
Whatever.
Right. In '94, Bart formed Third Coast Entertainment, a promotion and marketing group, started Monument Records as National Director of Promotion. Geez, you've been busy, pal. At Monument, the highlight of his record promotion career was when he was instrumental in breaking the Dixie Chicks, a little band from Nashville that you guys might have heard of. When Bart was on the road performing or during promo tours, continued to play for the artists that he was promoting.
Yep.
So you play guitar and sang and all that stuff in the band.
Did the high harmony parts. And
love it.
it was hard.
While out with Jeffrey Steele, who, if you guys don't know, What Hurts the Most, what are some other smashes?
Well, I wrote Brand New Girlfriend with him.
Okay.
What Hurts the Most. Gone for Montgomery Gentry.
Yeah.
Shoot,
He's just a smash
Songwriter
writer.
Hall of Fame.
Super cool dude.
Yeah.
They formed a friendship. Later, Jeff said, found out that Bart was pretty good at this songwriting thing. It's something that he wanted to do. Jeff encouraged him and then signed him. Was that right? To Windswept? Was that his
He was
company?
Three Ring Circus.
Three Ring Circus, okay.
Yep. Still is.
There you go. Bart got his first cut, which you just heard. Brooks and Dunn, Can't Take the Honky Tonk Out of the Girl. This was his first demo. Remember we talked about this, right, with Chuck Jones the other day. You write a song, you make a work tape, which means you just literally sing it into a tape, or nowadays newfangled iPhone or whatever.
It would sound just like what we just played.
Yeah. And then you create a demo, and then you get that demo to your publisher, and that publisher gets them to producers and artists and that sort of thing. They listen to the song, they say yep or nope, and then that's called a hold. If they say yep, and that means they hold on to it, no one else gets to hear it. If you remember that from me and Chuck talking about that. And then when it gets cut, that means they record it, but that doesn't mean it goes on the album still. So, but it can go on the album, and that's the hope. And then, of course, a single we mentioned is what you really want, which is when it goes on the radio. So there's several different ways that you make money. One of them is when you write the song and it goes on an album. Another one is when it's singled or it goes on the radio. And another one is if it's synced with television or movie or something like that, right?
Yep.
It was a top 5 for 9 weeks. Holy cow, the song peaked at the charts at number 3. 2005, Brand New Girlfriend, recorded by Steve Holyfield. Different guy. Started to chart in September 2006. It hit number 1. Bart was hired as vice president of record promotions at Big Loud Mountain, who, well, we won't get into that. Some names there you won't know, but other big names there. Spent a year and a half on the road with Florida Georgia Line as a liaison between Republic Records and the management team at Big Loud Mountain. Also set up radio station tours for upcoming acts Dallas Smith, Chris Lane, and was also instrumental in facilitating meetings that led to Blaster Records signing Dallas Smith in 2018. So there you go. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Bart has so many stories that he'll share. Hopefully some of them today. But so Bart, I've got some questions for you before we get into this, and you are going to be playing a song for us later.
Sure.
Another song, right?
I just have to find it.
Well, take your time. We're going to be here a little bit. So this is 4 hours, right?
Oh, I was told 5, so it's only 4.
Oh, it's only 4.
Well, that's
no,
great.
we're doing an hour and a half today. So, and guys, thanks so much, by the way, for helping us out yesterday and just dealing with the situation that we had. Internet was out in the morning. I don't know what was up, but literally like all the lights. Did you see that? All the stop lights, everything was out, and we were like, oh no, I guess we're not going to go live today. And they said that internet was going to be back way before way after we would have been started. So thanks for hanging out with us today. Mike, do we have anything on Instagram today? Or Facebook?
There is a post.
There's a post. Same dealio?
We don't have it to show on the screen.
Okay, no big deal. No big deal. Okay, so let's get into some questions here. I have some real specific questions that I'm sure the kids have there as well. So we'll start with that. And friends, get your questions ready. We'll probably start on Facebook today, and then we'll head over to YouTube. Okay, this will be a great time for you to anything in regards to the industry as far as songwriting, record promotion. anything in there as far as the business of getting songs and getting artists promoted, that sort of thing, would be a great thing to be asking Bart, okay? And anything about guitar. So, first off, Bart, what does a record promoter do? This will kind of get folks to know a little bit more about what your role is and what it's, in the industry.
Have you talked about A&R and stuff like that?
We have not, no.
Well, record promotion is, once the act gets signed, makes a record, we choose a single, then that single is what we take to radio. And then the promotion is just, hopefully you have great relationships with the radio stations. You're just trying to get them to play that record.
Right.
And like we were talking about a little earlier about radio station promo tours and stuff, we would go out on a bus or an airplane, whatever, and go visit all these radio stations. And 150, 200 stations.
Yeah.
Like, I think my last one was actually with Jeff Steele, last real one there, and we had a bus, and we did 26 cities in 5 days.
Wow.
And about killed.
Is this when he was an artist?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Jeff Steele's this big songwriter, but he's an amazing artist.
He was in Boy Howdy.
Oh, that's right.
And
yes,
they
yes.
made a bunch of records on Curb, and then when that went away, he just started writing. And then he had all these great demos, and they said, "Why don't we make a record out of this?" So we did. But yeah, it's just going around. You're trying to get the, stations to play the records, and then if there's a show, you're doing the backstage, the meet and greet. You're lining up all the passes and the tickets and everything, and bringing everybody back to say hi and we love you to somebody they don't know and we've never met before.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So you're literally promoting that artist, getting them out there.
Yeah.
Shaking hands, kissing babies.
Yep. But not the other way around. You don't want to
not
shake
shaking
a baby.
babies and kissing hands. No.
Don't do that.
And so they're doing interviews and that sort of thing on the radio, maybe playing live right there.
Play a couple of acoustic songs. We may have pizza brought in and do it in their conference room, and they can bring in all the salespeople and everything.
Yeah.
You try to get a radio station to love your act. Because then if it comes down to, these two records, this guy was great, but this guy was kind of a jerk, I'm going to play this one.
Isn't that wild? This is why I love to talk about stuff like this, because folks at home, we take this for granted because we're here in Nashville, and so everybody who we're around, we're talking in this kind of language all the time, which again is why you heard it from Chuck, you heard it from Melissa, you'll probably hear it from Bart as well, is that if you want to do anything to do with music, at least country music, you got to be in the town that's doing that, especially songwriting, that sort of thing. You got to be around those people, because this is stuff that we talk about all the time. But a lot of people think, they think that the industry is a certain thing, or they may not even actually think about all the all the bits that go into promoting a song, getting a song on the radio, and because I'll get a lot of people on here that'll say, I've written this great song, how do I sell it to blank? And you've heard that a million times, right? How do I sell it to blank? And it doesn't work like that. No. It's a lot harder than that. They're not waiting, I hate to say it, but they're not waiting for a song to be pitched to them so that they can go, here's money.
Right.
That'd be cool.
You don't sell a song.
Nope.
You kind of rent it.
Yes.
That person gets to record it and make money, but they got to pay me too.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, growing up in Holdredge, Nebraska, you think I knew anything about the music business?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was quite an education.
So what kind of musical family did you grow up in?
Oh man, just everybody played something.
Okay.
Like mom played piano, my dad played trombone, my brother is a great drummer, still is. My uncle played guitar and bass and drum, and then
Did he teach you how to play guitar?
No.
Yeah.
I kind of just taught myself by listening and playing along with Kiss Alive 2.
That's right, you're a big Kiss fan. Yeah.
And it was not to put them down, but you could figure that stuff out fairly quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. And at what age was that?
I probably picked it up about 10 or 11.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And that's about the time I started listening to Back in Black. The hormones are starting to bubble up a little bit. Sorry to use that word, bubble up, but you know what I mean. The hormones were there.
Absolutely.
And then the stuff like Kiss and Van Halen you start going, what is this
Well, and we didn't.
sorcery that I'm hearing through the speakers, right?
And we didn't have great teachers like you, so I had my Stella harmony that had the campfire scene down here.
Nice.
Strings are about this far off.
Right.
It's like you really had to want to play, and it was hardly worth it. But yeah, so, and I can't imagine now, it's like, you know, trying to figure out a Stevie Ray Vaughan lick or something. Well, you can just go to YouTube, and there's
Someone's teaching it.
somebody's teaching it, or there's film of him playing it. And literally, me and my brother would put quarters and nickels and dimes on the stylus on the turntable to slow it down before the amazing slow down or anything, and try to play along. And just ended up, you could just see the plastic just coiling up behind the needle because it was just digging. But we were just trying to figure it out, and there wasn't.
I never used that trick. I would just turn it off, and then just with my finger, which of course every note was in a different pitch,
right?
Because you're
we would.
You're like, that's no way to learn freaking eruption, right?
Well, I would figure out how many dimes it took to slow down to be an octave below what I was tuned.
Wow, that's cool.
And then, of course, like Stevie was tuned to E flat a lot of times.
Right.
So then it threw my monetary system
what are
all
you
the way
doing,
off.
right? And you probably didn't know that.
Didn't know it.
Right. So you're like, what are you doing?
And drop D.
Yeah.
I had no clue.
Yeah.
I remember reading a Guitar Player magazine like about guys like Steve Lukather and Michael Landau and Dean Parks and all these cats that were in LA studio guys. But nobody was really given a lot of credit yet to Nashville studio guys. So on the back of my albums, you know, all songs written by ZZ Top, these three guys. All songs written by Van Halen, these four guys.
Yeah.
And nobody else played on those records.
Right.
So when I got to town and at a publishing company, I saw my first album, country album. So I love country, but I didn't buy it. And on the back, it was a Sawyer Brown record. 5 guys in the band. I think it's 5.
Yeah.
And I looked at the back, and there's 7 guitar players and 14 drummers. It's like,
what is going on?
what is going on? And none of them were listed as playing on the record. It's like, then I saw an Alabama record. None of those guys play on the record. It's like, how is this? I don't know, understand this system.
Right, yeah.
So that was a very interesting, enlightening thing.
And same thing with the songwriters, you know?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
the same thing. It's like it's not Van Halen. It's
Right.
like all these other names.
Yeah.
You start seeing some of the names appear
Yeah.
often. But that's how it is in Nashville. It's like, you know, it's not the band that's playing. The band that's playing with FGL live is probably not the band that's playing in the studio. It's a different set of guys with different skill sets, and usually the live guys are trying to do the studio stuff or eventually, because they want to be home with their family and that sort of thing, right? So so I've got to ask you, because we both have an affinity for Eddie. When was the first time that you heard Van Halen, and what was the experience? What was the song? How, if you remember how old you were? I'm putting you on the spot here.
When did it come out?
Late 70s, like maybe 78 or 79, I'm guessing.
It was 78, so I would have been 14.
Van Halen 1.
Van Halen 1. I don't know if you remember, Guitar Player magazine in the back used to do record reviews. They'd show the album cover and talk about it.
Right.
Well, that's how I found Stevie Ray Vaughan, that's how I found Eddie. And they were talking about how he was tapping or doing all that. And I just remember putting that record on at home. And
so you said that you saw the review first.
Yeah.
And you're like, I got to listen to this.
I got to hear what this is.
Yeah.
So I'd go mow a few lawns and put a couple of ducats in my pocket and go to the record store.
Yeah.
And putting that on, and I'm just like, I mean, it was almost, in the media and stuff, it was almost controversial in like, is he playing a keyboard? Is that a guitar? Or what's going on?
Yeah.
And I had never heard anything like that. And it was so...
Was that when you heard Eruption?
Yeah, Eruption, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
And it just, even my dad came downstairs where us boys were, and he was like, what is that?
Yeah.
I go, that's a guy doing things that I can't do, Dad. That's what that is.
It's wizardry.
It's wizardry.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you don't know what we're talking about, I know a lot of you do, but there is a guitar solo by the name of Eruption. It's on Van Halen 1, and if you haven't heard it, dear God,
Where have you been?
You're go to the interwebs and just type it in and just listen to it and watch them do it live and everything else. It's just and especially back in '78, it's like,
man.
oh my God, you're like no one was doing anything like that. Now people are doing stuff like that, but
he was
be the
even
first
so
guy.
proprietary about that technique that he would turn his back to the crowd when he would do that.
Yeah.
First starting out because
Yeah.
they wanted to get the record out,
right.
and then he could explain, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, and that guy was like full of tricks, right? So, it's crazy. So, okay, 78, let's fast forward a little bit. So, you moved to Nashville in 87.
I think that's right.
Was that right? 87, to attend Belmont University, which is, I started attending school there in 90. So I was just right behind you there, man.
I'd already quit by then.
What's that?
I'd already quit by then.
I had quit, by 90 I had dropped out at least 2 times. And then once I went to Belmont, I dropped out like another 3 times. And finally graduated 9 years later. From after high school, 9 years later it took me to get my degree.
Well, I've never graduated.
And
so.
if I could do it all back again, I would take all those 9 years back and all that money and not go to school.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mom. But I would.
Yeah.
Because it's like I'm doing what I love to do. It's music. And
yeah.
I mean, I think it was helpful. Like a lot of people say, college is one of those places where you go and you learn about life, not really so much the profession that you're going to be in so much. I was music business.
Yeah.
Music business
yeah.
as well, right? So from there, you joined a band, right?
Yes.
In fact, I'm gonna we've got a picture. Chris, do you have that picture? Okay, I'm just gonna say it. What the hell's going on here? There you are.
Oh, I like the
That's
arrow.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
right? Just so no one gets confused about any of the other girls in the photo there. I just want you to make sure that is definitely Bart. And I'm noticing the name is not Bart. It's Tommy Hawk.
It's Tommy Hawk.
And so and for those of you, this is very, very inside, but the guy just to the left of Bart's beard, you're going to see a guy who's looking at the camera there, Scott Page. Can you tell us a little bit about
Rage.
this? Rage, sorry. Scott Rage. What a great name.
That is actually...
I mean, who gets to be born with that name?
Evidently nobody.
So tell us about who this guy is, right?
That is Scott Borchetta, who owns Big Machine Records, Taylor Swift, and all that stuff. And he's just been one of my best buddies for 20 years.
Yeah, and in the music business, he's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Especially after Taylor Swift. So literally, he and Taylor's dad are responsible for breaking Taylor into the market. Yeah.
I don't know what Taylor's dad is doing anymore. He's not part of that anymore. But
he's on the beach.
I would guess.
With a pina colada, I'm thinking.
And Scott's got a Ferrari collection. And
does he?
Yeah.
I've seen him at industry parties every now and then.
He's
I'm
a
like,
good
that's
dude.
that guy, yeah.
He's a good dude.
Okay, so here, let's talk about this real quick, though I touched on it, and then we're going to get to some questions, and we're going to have you play another tune here in a minute. But, so how does someone go from promoting records to being a songwriter? Now, I kind of know that you were playing guitar, you were in bands, you were doing all this stuff, so essentially, you were this all along, but...
Well,
people get to know you as being a particular something in Nashville,
right?
In industry or whatever. And so to go from being a record promoter to a songwriter, and I listened to Bob DiPiero's, I think it was Bob DiPiero, right, where they were sitting around in a meeting talking about.
Oh yeah.
And I listened to his explanation. But can you say a little bit about how that happened? Because, and sorry for me to interrupt you one more time. The reason that I want to go into these details with you is that for those folks that are. It doesn't matter where you're at in your playing. It doesn't matter where you're at in your artistry. If it's something that you want to do and you're thinking about doing more, but you're fearful or you think there's no way to do it, this story will help you to understand that it really has to do with what is it that's your heart desire, and are you willing to move forward and trust in yourself and do the work that is required in order to move to that next level. Whatever level that is, it doesn't have to be a record promoter who's promoting Dixie Chicks or writing a hit #1 song. It just needs to be whatever that next step is for you. So, sorry.
No, I was out on the road with Jeffrey Steele again, And I asked him, I mean, like you said, he's a fully formed artist. He didn't need me doing anything. But I said, man, we were spending so much time on a bus. I said, can I bring a guitar out and just play along with you out here while we're messing around? He goes, dude, that'd be awesome. So I did that, and after about 6 or 8 months, he goes, dude, I've never met anybody that loves singing and playing music more than you.
Yeah.
He goes, I know this is a great gig, and it's gonna last forever. Like
everything does.
Like everything, especially in music.
Right.
But he said, if you ever get sick of this and want to write songs, he says, I'm starting a publishing company and I want to sign you.
Wow.
I said, that'd be awesome. Didn't think about it a ton because I had a great job.
What year was this?
Oh boy, I don't know.
Early 90s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm horrible with dates, man.
Okay.
Sorry about that. But so then my blood pressure, this is stupid and more information, but my blood pressure was 177 over 122 or something.
Whoa, yeah.
And the doctor said, I want to put you in the hospital tonight. I said, can't do it. I said, because at midnight I'm getting on a bus, and that was when I did that 26 cities in 5 days.
Which probably helped with your stress, I would imagine. That calmed you down.
Oh, man.
Yeah, hopping on a bus and doing 26 cities.
Well, and there's no details.
Just what the doctor ordered.
No, exactly. Yeah, I think when I told him what I was going to do, I think he said, that sounds perfect.
That sounds great.
And when you get home, have that bus drop you off at the hospital.
Right.
But went and did that. Well, then record company lives started changing and everything. I got fired. And my blood pressure started coming down.
Yeah.
But then Jeff goes, come on.
Yeah.
Coming right.
I love that.
And it was the main things I was...
Because you were doing what was safe.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but you were doing what was, that was the thing that paid the bills. And I can't tell you, I've mentioned to the folks out there that there's so many jobs I've had because I was just fearful of just like stepping into my role.
Absolutely, man. You can sit in your basement and go on the YouTubes and learn how to play every lick you ever want, whatever, but until it's your licks, and you don't know if you're any good at that.
Mm-hmm.
You could be the greatest guitar player in the world, but I don't know, I'm not explaining that very well. My goal, I had a BMW, I had a Harley, I sold those. My goal was, and they had to pay me out of my deal, which was nice. But I told my dad, I said, I'm going to try this songwriting thing. I have this amount of money. I'm selling my car. I'm selling my motorcycle. I said, my whole goal is to see what happens, but not lose my house. Because like you said, at the end of the day, you just got to find what your own definition of success is.
Right.
And go after that.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to lose my house. I still live in that house. And I met, this is so dumb, I was at a little bar. What was it called? Tin Roof.
Tin Roof. Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to a lady who I knew from radio. And she said, what are you doing these days? And I said, she had another blonde lady next to her.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, what are you doing these days? And I said, man, honestly, I'm just trying to be a songwriter. I said, I don't know. And I was already writing with Jeffrey. And she said, if you could write with anybody, who would you want to write with? And I said, Bob DiPiero. And this girl just lit up and she goes, I can make that happen. I go, what? And it was Bob's assistant.
Bob's written what?
Oh, man.
Can you name just couple that with it?
Daddy's Money, Can't Take the Honky Tonk Out of the Girl. He wrote The Boys of Summer. He's written, he's in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. I think he has 29 number ones. Mm-hmm. But
wow.
She said, come on over. And I walk in and he's just kind of eyeballing me. He's like, I don't know who this kid is.
Yeah.
But if Rachel thinks you're fine, then let's have a seat. And he said, what do you got? You got any ideas? And I'm just shaking in my boots. And I threw
what we mean by an idea, we talked about that the other day. You gotta, if you're typically, right, the senior writer, it's just like a known that if you're the younger guy or the one who doesn't have as much
credibility
success,
or whatever. Yeah.
you got to be the guy to come in with the title, with the
Bring a title, bring a riff,
song, yeah,
bring
something. So he's asking him that. He's putting him on the spot, saying, "What do you got for me, Mr. 29 number ones?"
Yeah, and I threw out a couple things that are embarrassing, and he's going, "Nah." He goes, I saw a movie this weekend called Sweet Home Alabama, and there was this line in there that said, "You have a baby in a bar." And the other girl goes, "Yeah, well, you can take the girl out of the honky-tonk, but you can't take the honky-tonk out of the girl."
Yeah.
And then he goes, "You want to write that?" Yes. Yes.
Whatever, Bob.
Whatever he was going to say, I was going to follow him down that
Yeah.
trail. And he came up with that. What if we do a kind of Stonesy thing? And now it's like, I freaking love this, and I'm really into it.
Yeah.
And we wrote that song in about an hour and a half.
I love it.
And he got it. His neighbor was Kix Brooks.
Okay.
And they were good buddies. So he put it in his mailbox and called him and said, "Dude, there's a song in your mailbox. Why don't you give it a spin?" And Kix, bless his heart, he freaking loved it. And he goes, "But this isn't for me." He goes, "Ronnie needs to sing that."
Mm-hmm.
And Ronnie, of course, just one of the greatest voices that country music ever seen. He just killed it.
Yeah. And so now you are an official songwriter in Nashville, and you were rocking and rolling and whatnot. And but then you've done other things since then again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also promoting, and also some stuff on the road with FGL. But was that record promotion as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of worked for was called Big Loud Records, which is their management team is Big Loud. And I kind of worked for the record company, just being a liaison between Republic Records, which was another one of Scott Borchetta's labels.
Yeah.
And they share FGL. It's a co-venture, whatever you call that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was just trying to bring back the news and take the news both ways. And
Yeah.
I was on the road. I mean, my last year I was out there, I think I gone 174 days.
Wow.
So it was pretty.
That's intense.
My most ever was 232, and that was
Good night.
That was pretty ridiculous.
Good night. That's insane. Yeah. Let's do this. Would you mind if we get to some questions from the kids? I call everybody kids, whether they're 8 or 80. So some people will be like, "I'm not a kid." You're all kids.
It's nice.
I'm a kid.
Though. What are you doing? You a kid?
Yeah. All right, so I'm on Facebook here, so we're gonna grab some some questions from Facebook, and remember, friends, if you can, let's try to address the questions, or I'll address the questions that make more sense for Bart here, right? If you have questions about guitar specifically, I'll answer those as well, or Bart will too, because Bart is a great guitar player. He's worked with artists in other capacities here that we haven't even mentioned. So, but nonetheless, if you have some questions about guitar as well, I would love to ask you. I've got guitar questions for you as well, like Nashville number system. Are you using that and all this other stuff? So, I'll be back to you.
Well, I will interrupt you one more time, but
Please
besides guitar holder, Big Al Anderson, who's one of the best guitar players that the world has ever seen, said I was one of the best guitar owners he's ever met.
Oh, nice.
So
nice.
I got holder and owner.
Yeah. You wear lots of hats, but you really do.
Especially this one has my name on it.
What makes a good song good? It's a pretty general question, but in Nashville, you're asking the right people here. Nashville songwriters.
Man, I think it has to have a common thread. A phrase that gets thrown around a lot is it needs to be conversational. It needs to just sound like you're talking to your best buddy, or talking to your best girl or a guy or whatever.
Honesty.
Honesty is great, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, a good song, what did our hero Eddie Van Halen said one time? If it sounds good, it is good.
Mm-hmm. And, gosh, I say that all the time to students when they're like, hey, I'm playing this, but I'm doing this, and this one string isn't sounding. Is that okay? I'm like, does it sound good?
Yeah.
Like, if it sounds good to you, but now if you want that string to sound and you're muting it,
right.
well, now you got a problem. But in the meanwhile, don't overanalyze it. Yeah.
But also, there again, I think you can only. It's so hard now. There's songwriting camps like today. We're just writing for Lady Antebellum. Okay, well, now you kind of got to know their music.
Can you tell the listeners what that means? What's a songwriting camp?
They'll have a publishing company or maybe two publishing companies will get all their writers in the same building, and typically in the morning, Eric and I would write, and then in the afternoon, he would go write with somebody else, I would go write with somebody else. And you try to just jam as many songs in the system as you can, and we're specifically writing for this band. Well, like Lady A, 2 lead singers, one of them's a pretty girl, so there's obviously lyrical ideas that they're not going to sing.
Yeah.
They don't do drinking songs. They don't do cheating songs. So don't even bother writing one.
Right.
Might be a great song.
Right.
Not for that band. So
Yes.
you just kind of got to figure out very specifically who your audience is and
Right.
who you're trying to get a song to.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Very cool. Yeah.
and hopefully that's a good song.
Yeah.
And it's good. It needs to be good to them.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't need to be good to us.
Right. Yeah, and so, good, I'll always say this too, it's subjective. So, what you're saying,
Yeah.
honesty and all the rest, some people are probably saying, are you joking with stuff that's on the radio right now?
Right.
And that's true, but it's, number one, it's speaking to somebody.
Yep.
There's somebody it's speaking to.
When I went out with FGL, my wife very kindly reminded me, she goes, "You're not the 23-year-old you used to be, so don't act like an idiot. And 2, just remember, you're not the audience of this band. So don't be a jerk about anything." When I went out there, came back home, she said, "How was it?" And I said, "It was great. Everybody's so nice." And I said, "I don't have to like this music." I said, "But there's 15,000 people every night singing along with every word."
Yeah.
So obviously the fans love this music.
Yeah.
And I got to understand, it's like Taylor Swift. We need to write a song for Taylor Swift. I go, well, it's been a long time since I was an 18-year-old girl, but let me see if I can channel something here.
Right, yeah.
And so there you go back to being honest. I don't know what a girl wants to say. I can't
Yeah.
write another song called Butt Dial or something dumb. But
Yeah. So, it definitely has to do with being subjective as well. So I like what you just said there about, FGL and or just whoever. It's all a matter of opinion. This is a good question here I saw from Larry. What do you think is needed or what is missing so today's artists can break out and go viral, similar to how bands of the 80s broke out in radio? And I guess maybe, does that make sense? Or maybe another way to say that is what's different about in the 80s as opposed to now, or even in the 90s, about how artists are breaking?
well, I mean, obviously the music is insanely different. If we had Garth Brooks, Clint Black, and Alan Jackson, that class of '89, none of those guys could even get a record deal today. So that standpoint, the music has completely changed. Like we're talking about track guys and just tons of computers and everything else. I mean, country music is a lot closer to my ear, to pop music, than the country of the 80s. But I mean, any kind of breaking out and everything is like doing this. It's social media, and how do you connect with everybody, and you're great at it. I'm really bad at it. But I mean, I saw a picture of Gene Simmons and Cher the other day where Gene had the napkin up over his face and you could just see his eyes. And it's like, there was so much mystique to those guys. Love them or hate them, it doesn't matter.
Oh, he's a marketing genius.
Oh my gosh. But it was that, trying to make yourself interesting, trying to separate yourself. I mean, I hear all the time that girls are having a hard time getting on the radio, and I don't have any idea what that is about. I think we have great singers that are singing great songs. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But I don't know about that thing, man. But yeah, I would say, man, social media and just is so important anymore.
Yeah. But focusing on being the artist that you are, it sounds like, is what you're saying, as opposed to being concerned with what other people are doing or what other people have done.
Yeah, if you're writing for what's on the radio, you're a year behind.
Yeah, Chuck just said that the other day too.
You got to write for the future. And that's hard to do.
Yeah, but you can be honest and write what is. That's the place you have to start. You got to start with who you are today. And if it's no good, well, that's why we develop our skills, just like as a songwriter or a guitar player or a singer or anything else, a soccer player. It's all skills that are developed.
But you also, man, you see these huge YouTube breakout acts. Like one of the favorite guy I just found, his name is Plini, Plini. I think he's Australian guitar player, just bonkers. He didn't, but he's got 1 million people or whatever views on YouTube. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't know that you need a record company anymore.
Yeah.
And everybody and their dog's got a Pro Tools rig or something in their home, so you can make great music without ever leaving your house.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts. But boy, there's no one way to do anything anymore, I don't think.
Yeah. Someone's asking here, is it at this point, is playing just a job for you? Has it lost its love?
Yes.
Do you still love to play?
I still love to play. My wife, when I was really writing, I was writing 150 songs a year. I did that for about 10 years. And my wife noticed, you never play guitar anymore at home. And I go, these guitars are so amazing, and guys like us are fortunate to have some really nice guitars. But it's like when the carpenter gets home from work, he doesn't want to pound nails.
Right.
He wants to sit on the couch.
Yeah.
And it kind of became that, too.
Yeah.
It's coming way back around again because I'm not writing like that anymore.
Yeah.
So I find myself playing a lot more now.
It's funny that you say that because I've been playing guitar since I was 14. I started teaching like my buddies and what have you about 2 years later in high school because I was just like, I was voracious.
Fire,
And what was I teaching them?
Right.
Crazy Train. I don't know. It wasn't like teaching them some advanced jazz theory or whatever. But I was teaching my buddies and was just very passionate. I've always been passionate about helping, like in some way, and just helping, and especially with guitar, I just love doing that. And now I see, I started uploading stuff in 2006. There was like 3 guys that were doing that back in the day, like that were bigger. It was like me, Marty, and Justin Sanderco, Marty Schwartz, and now there's like a bazillion people doing it on YouTube, which is great. I love that because there's people doing things that I wouldn't be very good at showing them how to do that, but I see these guys and they're like, oh, I'm this great guitar player, and I see them wanting to do it, but it's like anything else. It's like how much time I'm playing guitar as opposed to creating videos and PDFs for my students and everything else. It's like beyond a full-time job. And so how much do I get to play guitar? Not as much as I want to. So like a lot of these guys that are starting this thing, I'm always like, I want to say something to them, but I know they're not going to understand it yet until they get there, and then they're going to be like, whew, okay, well, this is not exactly what I thought it was going to be. I love it because I truly, especially at this point in my life, I love just being able to give that energy and that all to a student, and then seeing them blossom because they have all the zeal and the hormones and everything else, and you're like,
Are they bubbling?
What's that? They're bubbling. They're bubbling.
But also trying to figure out a super concise way to make sense to that many people of this is how, of teaching. That's way different than me sitting on the couch going, hey, that sounds kind of cool. You know what I mean? That's just way more intense.
Okay, so let's get to some questions here on the YouTubes. Friends, if you would, please put a question mark and all caps. We got Wisconsin, Oak Ridge, Israel, Belgium, Colorado, Alabama.
Sage, you look like James Hetfield.
I get that so much.
Do you really?
James Hetfield, Ryan Reynolds, Paul Rudd. Some of them I don't understand. Yeah, I'll get, what is the cartoon superhero thing that wasn't a cartoon, but Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool. I get that like all the time.
Yeah.
I wish I was as funny as that guy.
I don't get comments like that.
They got to say you look like somebody, right?
Oh, they go like, that pro wrestler, that the guy that sweats all the time? That's me.
South Dakota. That's getting close to you out there, right? Lufkin, Texas. Okay, this is a great one. How advanced, Kevin on YouTube's is asking, how advanced was your overall musical knowledge when you started writing songs?
Do you think that's theory?
Yeah,
Or-
I think they're talking about music theory, which for you it probably was
See, there's
better
that-
than.
another 4-7
There's that
too.
damn number again.
No,
We don't want any.
leave me alone.
My guess would be it's probably more than your average songwriter when they move to town. But what was it? Well,
I had flunked out of theory class at the University of Nebraska. So I was
so
taking...
you were a music major?
No,
No,
that was one of my... I was just... when I was a freshman, it was just...
free for all. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. So I came down here, and I thought, I'm one of the best guitar players in Holdredge, Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
And I got down here, and I realized I wasn't one of the best guitar players that moved to Nashville the day that I moved to Nashville. So I was super behind the game, I thought.
Yeah.
So that, and then you go to Belmont where
Oh my God! Right.
you see guys just dragging a guitar behind them and not even in a case. And then you're in a theory class with them, and the stuff they're playing is like,
Yeah.
holy crap. And they're reading music. We were being taught to read music. John Pell was our... Did you take class from him?
I've taken. I'd love to have John on the show,
Man, he's
but
awesome.
John Pell is here in Nashville's probably taught more guitar players than any guitar teacher,
Yeah.
and has taught guys like Dan Huff and
Yeah.
and probably dozens of other really big guitar players who. He's just such a humble guy. He played my wedding.
He played my
class-
wedding.
Did he really?
Yeah. Well,
now
one of them.
Yeah.
There's another thing you learn about writing songs is you need at least 2 marriages. No, you don't.
If you want to write some good songs, yeah. So you took lessons from John Pell once you came here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, but also overall music knowledge. I will tell you, from the time I was 0 years old, there was always jazz and classical and hymns. And then my last name's Allman, so my dad went out and bought Allman Brothers live at the Fillmore.
Yeah.
I was like, holy crap, what is this?
This is your uncle, son.
Yeah. Now you need to meet them and get in the will. I did meet those guys one time, and Greg told a friend of mine he thought I was either a son that he didn't know he had or a little half brother that he didn't know he had.
Wow. But there's no relation.
No.
No.
My name has a D on the end of it,
Okay.
but theirs doesn't. But as far as overall musical knowledge, there was always music in our house or in the cars or when we were at church. Just so, I mean, I ran the gamut of everything from classical music to Black Sabbath and Ozzy and all points in between. It's like,
Yeah.
And I'm still that way. I can always find something to listen to. I just love
So yours was more of an ear thing than
Completely.
it was anything else.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before, that whether you're an ear player who thinks that they know no theory, or you're just a total theory guy or girl, it's all the same thing. It's
Yeah.
all shapes and what have you. So this is what I say all the time, that the major scale, the diatonic chords, the structure of music, the Nashville number system, all that stuff, you already know every advertisement that comes on TV, any piece of music that you're hearing, unless it's atonal or possibly like Indian music or something that's using semitones, which even that has a tonal center. You know this stuff intrinsically. It's just getting those labels really helps to
What you
understand it all
said
more.
about advertisements on TV, I used to just sit and watch TV and play along with ads all the time, just because it was so different than anything I liked,
Yeah,
that it just took my playing to somewhere I wasn't going to go on my own.
yeah,
But
yeah. I
It's
love
kinda
that.
fun.
I had a buddy who I talked about him before, that he was just this rager, just very a clean player and very classy at what he did, but he would rage like Yngwie at times, where you're like, whoa, what was that? And I asked him how he practiced, and he says he would just put on the radio and play to it. So that helps obviously with the ear and stuff.
that works great,
yeah.
because I used to do that when I was doing record promotion. I had a telly in my office, and I was always listening, and sometimes you might be on hold 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So you'd play along, and that's when I first found out that radio stations were speeding their stuff up 1 or 2 or maybe 3%.
How about that? I heard that one other
Yeah.
time. So they speed it up.
Mm-hmm.
So back in the day, the records, they would actually speed those up too, or just when it went digital?
Both.
Both.
But
And why is that?
Because if you take a 3-minute song and make it a 2-minute and 54-second song,
You can
by
pack
the end of the
more in.
day, you can pack more ads in. You can make more revenue for the station.
How about that? Tricky.
Yes, and I know a couple of artists that got in people's faces, radio's faces, said if I would have wanted it that fast, we would have recorded it that fast.
Yeah.
And it's like,
There's nothing they can really do about it.
Your song is to be played in between tire commercials.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
the deal.
Yeah, we make money off the tire commercials, not your song.
Yeah.
But
So don't
that's-
ever think your song.
That's not entirely true because I don't know any stations that are just playing tire commercials. Just tire commercials.
No, there's one. It's not here.
You don't know it. So you would sit there and play to it, and you'd find out that
Why do I keep having to retune my guitar?
Wow.
To different stations.
wow, how
Like
about
your
that?
station would be all up 1%, so that's
Right.
pretty close.
Right.
Then I'd call this station, and their stuff's up 2%.
Wow.
Well, now I got a tune.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Isn't that crazy?
But that also goes to show you, and we're joking about tire commercials, but as much as we all love these songs and love writing and whatever, your songs are just not that precious.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you hear some people go,
Yeah.
I love all my children the same. It's like, you know what? Let me tell you something. 80% of your kids are ugly, so don't even, that, you know,
Yeah,
'cause
exactly.
80% of your songs are crap.
How many songs have you written?
It's like 11 or 1,200.
Okay. And how many? And 2 songs have been in the top 5,
Yeah,
top 3,
and we've had like 60 cuts maybe.
60 cuts. So there you go. What's that?
It's less than 10%.
I'm not very good at math. I took algebra 5 times. You'd think I'd be real good at it now, but in college, in Belmont, you know, a nice cheap school. Dear God, 5 times. I mean, that's like, you know, a couple Les Pauls at least.
Oh, yeah. Nice ones.
Right. All right. Somebody said, "Does your music come before the lyrics?"
That's a either or. A lot of times, like Eric was talking earlier, if you're the young upstart with the bubbling hormones, I always I have a calendar, and I can see who I'm writing with on any given day. And if I'm just sitting there, like if we open my phone, there's 150 ideas in there. Probably 30 of them are pretty good. And I just come up with like a riff, and I'll go, oh, that's cool. And then I'll look through my calendar, and I'll go like, who am I writing soon? Oh, Bob DiPiero, that'd be awesome. So I'll record that riff, and I'll make a note in my calendar, show Bob the riff.
Mm-hmm.
And so that happens, or somebody will say something, and you go, oh, that's a great idea. And then you just because of what we do, you just start working on it. So sometimes words come, and there's people in town that do nothing but words, and there's people in town that do nothing but music. And I just have always tried to do both because I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And I got to believe you're maybe, hopefully, a little more valuable if you can do both.
Yeah. And you probably don't want to get too married to writing, say, like a poem without the music, because then, you know, it's more like you want to get ideas. Like I've seen these guys work before, and they'll say, I don't know, just, you know, naming a title of something, and then you would say, you would use all these analogies that are related to your title, and they would just spit all that stuff out, right?
Yeah.
Now you got all this to work from, and then you start forming your lyrics. That's pretty often what you guys do.
Yeah, and the poem thing, like, I've written a couple of poems and then tried to put music to them.
Yeah.
It hasn't worked so far.
Yeah.
Or I've had other people come to me, you know, I wrote this poem about my grandmother who's got Alzheimer's. Like, this is so cool. And I try and nothing.
Yeah.
I think it kind of just comes at the same time.
Yeah.
And you can't be, again, back to precious stuff. If you write the poem, then you're locked into that.
Right.
Because your head is now in a totally different place. And you
People
can't
don't
go
want
back.
you to mess with their,
Yeah,
change their lyrics.
because now it's
and-
precious.
Yeah.
And you don't want to, and it's especially if it's somebody else's, you don't want to change anything.
Yeah.
But it's like,
Yeah. It's almost like, you know, if you could think, especially in Nashville, L.A., New York's probably, well, it's definitely different. But in Nashville, it seems like it's such a butterfly effect with what you guys do. You know, this idea of the butterfly effect, that a butterfly flaps its wings and controls the weather around the world, you know, like subtle little things. And one person will say something, and Melissa says this all the time, one person will say something, and then someone will say the same thing again, and then it's like, hey, wait a minute, that's good. Where have I heard that before? Or, you know, it kind of sucks when you're the guy with the first idea, but...
I just said
that. But that you guys are constantly feeding off of each other, because most of the writes in Nashville are co-writes.
Yeah.
And so one person will say something, and then you go, oh, that makes me think, and then now you're
That's
almost improvisation writing.
The biggest lesson, or the first big lesson that Jeffrey Steele taught me, was don't self-censor. Because I was always going like, oh, what about, oh no, never mind. And he'd go, tell me.
Yeah.
And because I was very intimidated at this guy that had already written 3,000 songs and had hits, and I had done nothing. So I would stop, and he goes, no, you don't understand. Your idea might suck. It might be really stupid, but it might take me someplace totally different.
Yes.
So without you saying that, I'm not going to find the other different place.
Yeah.
And so he goes, so now tell me your idea. And I sputtered it out. He goes,
that's stupid.
Yeah, he goes, you were right to not say that, because that's just stupid. And then we would laugh. And that's, you got to have fun, man.
Yeah.
You got to be able to laugh.
Yeah. I heard something really interesting, and this is also could be thought of in your own playing or anything else, is to write for the trash can. You know, it's like if that's your goal, just to wad that piece of paper up and throw it in the trash can, then you did your job. Understanding that if you don't do that, you're never going to get to the good stuff. Too many people, this happens with guitar all the time, they play for a week and they're like, I'm having difficulty. Really, champ? So did everybody in the history of ever who had a hand and put it on a guitar. Like, everybody has a problem with this, so that's why you're here. That's why you're learning.
Yeah.
Same thing with songwriting. It's like, if you don't get all that crap out first, you're never going to write a good song.
I jokingly tried to explain it one day that songs are like a can of Pringles. You eat that first one, you go, that's a pretty good chip.
Yeah.
Eat that second one, that wasn't as good. Eat that next one, you go, holy crap, that's the best chip. Yeah. And it's just like songs, you know, you kind of gotta
dig a little.
Oh man, I mean, I sometimes I go, and if I'm depressed or want to be depressed, I'll go back and listen to my old demos.
Yeah.
And I'm going like, golly, we should have never even finished that song, let alone wasted money doing a demo.
Yeah.
But you'll figure that stuff out the more you do it.
And the only way that you can learn is to make mistakes, or have folks that are making mistakes in front of you that you're following and listening to, but most people don't listen to, they got to make the mistakes themselves. Okay. Okay, well, I don't know what you're talking about there. Some of these questions I think they're talking about Jeff Steele.
Oh, somebody thought it was Jess?
It's Jeff or
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey Steele, but you got it right with the E on the end.
Yeah.
Bart, how old were you when you wrote your first song?
Man, oh man, honestly, first full song would have been Can't Take the Honky Tonk Out of the Girl with Bob DiPiero.
That was your first legitimate song? Wow. Okay, so what we just said, that you have to write a bunch of crap before that happens, was a complete lie.
No.
But this does happen.
But Bob had already written a bunch of crap, and he was driving the car. I was just following him. But yeah, that was just a completely... that was a gift, man. God wanted to show me that his plan was better than my plan. But yeah, that was... So, I mean, I'd already been through 16th Avenue Records, RCA, so I was already... I'd already been through 2 divorces.
And see, you were hearing so much music, too.
Yeah.
Like, you were around that stuff, so that counts as being around all that stuff.
I mean, I knew the form, and I knew where to go, and I knew you can't cuss, and I knew all that kind of stuff. So, in my head, I had already made a lot of mistakes.
Yes, yeah. I love that. Justin Wren, Fight for the Forgotten.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know him?
Yeah, I think he texted me.
Oh, sweet. Said, I know both of you both you and your family are very purpose-driven and philanthropic, hoping to make the world a better place. Can you speak to how people in the music industry make the world better? That's a great question.
I wrote a theme song for him called Fight for the Forgotten. Yeah, he's an awesome guy. He's and I'm going to get it wrong, but like a UFC fighter. He's massively sweet guy.
But don't mess with him.
I wouldn't.
No.
No, once you saw him, you wouldn't.
No.
Anyway.
Be more of a buddy.
He looks like Thor, except bigger. The music industry make the world better. Man, that's...
There's not enough of that going on right now.
No.
People. This is the frustrating thing, is that when I see an artist and they have, especially these, I love Billie Eilish, whatever her name is,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
understand she's where she's at right now, and she's got going through her own stuff. But it pains me to see these people who have the world in their hand, and then they just let people down. And when they could be helping so many
Yeah.
people with just putting some positive love and energy out there, instead of saying a bunch of stuff that's just not true or negative or whatever. It's shameful. It's
Well,
really shameful.
There's always, you have the right, I guess, to say
Whatever you want.
whatever you want.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't. You also, I always say that half of the freedom of speech is also having the freedom to shut up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, philanthropic, man.
Mm.
I mean, we work with a bunch of ministries, my wife Amy and I do, and everything.
Mhm.
So I mean, I don't think that's me. Well, I will tell you one great example is St. Jude's,
Mm-hmm.
that hospital in Memphis
Mhm.
for little children with cancer and stuff. And country music every year has a St. Jude's radiothon. Every
Yeah.
station does it. I mean, I remember when I was at RCA, US 99 in Chicago raised $1 million by themselves over 3 days
Wow.
for St. Jude's, and then we'd all go meet over there and go through the hospital and meet some of these awesome little kids and
Yeah.
stuff, and that was a great part of my life to be involved in that.
I love that. Bart, you also...
Oh, Larry the Cable Guy. Yes, sorry, I have been
Yeah.
told that.
Larry the Cable Guy?
My wife right now, she looked at me, would say,
There you go.
"Oh, I see you've got your Larry the Cable Guy starter kit on." She's an encourager, that one.
Yeah, sure she is. That's a lot of love. So, Bart, you have a podcast, right?
Yes.
Would you like to let folks know about that?
That'd
Is there
be
someplace
awesome.
they could find that?
It's Thinking and Drinking.
Mm-hmm.
There's no G's.
Thinking and drinking.
Thinking and drinking.
Drinking. Yeah, okay.
And you can go to thinkinganddrinking.com, which the website is on there, and there's a bunch of stories that I've written about songs and stuff, like the turntable one we were talking about,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of stuff. Or you can just go to Thinking and Drinking on iTunes, and we just hired a marketing lady, so it should be on a bunch of different formats,
Very
or
cool.
platforms.
Yes, and tell me what is it about specifically? Because I know we got a lot of country music folks out there, and also songwriters and what have you. So what's your guys' niche?
It's not a teaching thing, but it's just a music thing. Like, my first guest was Jeffrey Steele. We just talk about working together and how we met, and how we write songs, and about the songs we wrote, and just, what got us to town. And then I've had like a Ricky Medlock from Leonard Skinner on there, and Dave Rude from Tesla. My attorney's going to be on there, and it's just all stuff that's kind of music.
Right.
My wife said, because I've had two friends that wrote books about their time in the music industry, and
Yeah.
I always read laying in bed, and I would read her these stories because she knows all these people,
Right.
and I'm like going,
Woo! Thank you so much. That means someone just donated money to the
Sweet.
the lunch fund.
but I would go like, I don't think I would have told that story if I were you, and I know his wife real well and everything, and Amy has rolled her eyes at all my stories for so many years. She goes, "You need to write a book." And I go, "No."
Yeah.
I said, "I've done things that I'm not proud of, and I don't need
want it in a
anybody to
book.
know." And don't want it in a book, but also I go, those stories aren't just mine.
Right. Yes.
So if I have Eric on there and he goes, "Hey, you remember that time?" It's
Right.
like, okay, but yeah, I don't need to, say some story.
But you could share them with us today, because it's just you and me here, Bart, right?
It's just the two of us.
BJ, thank you so much for the donation for the lunch fund today. I appreciate that. We will be going to lunch today. Yes. Yeah, I bet you have a lot of stories. Any stories that you want to share that you can share, say from like Asfault, was it Asfault Jungle?
Asfault Jungle
Asfault
with an
Jungle.
F.
Which was a movie named that. Was that what
Marilyn
you got?
Monroe, but that was PH.
That was
Ours
PH.
was F.
Okay, I saw that with an F.
With an F. That was the name of our EP. But no, we were talking earlier about how the four of us were just poor kids trying to play shows, man. And we were all too broke to buy guy liners, so we would either steal it from our girlfriends, or me and Scott Borchetta both worked at record companies, and so we had access to boxes and boxes of Sharpies, and we would use Sharpies. We would play a lot of Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So if you applied it Thursday before the show, by Sunday you could get
It'll probably be
it would
off.
probably be off, and you
Right.
could go back to work on Monday, and people were none the wiser.
Oh my God, that is absolutely amazing.
But that also was the first real organized band, and we were writing the songs, and it was a blast. And it was the first time I really, when you're playing with records, or what do the kids call them nowadays? Files or
I
the
was gonna say
YouTubes?
CDs. It's
CDs.
Like, I get CDs from people sometimes. I'm like, what am I going to do with this?
I play them in my car.
Yeah, I've got one in my car. I could do
But
that.
that was the first time I'd ever realized that I'm responsible for tempo. I'm responsible for not blasting the other guys in the room out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm responsible for playing the songs as they were written, whether you wrote them or not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's way different than playing with a Van Halen CD, because all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff was done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Indeed. Bart, I learned a lot in the 60s and 70s from a buddy just jamming. Are you available to play with a 70-year-old? Mike, if you come to Nashville, possibly, right? How do you mix melodies and chords? Well, we kind of talked about that a little bit. I know we're getting that question a lot, Inner Sanctum, but, most people, they play some chords that work together, and even though, unbeknownst to them, they're singing within the scale.
yeah,
Because this is the stuff that you were basically fed as a child when you're listening to commercials or listening to music. You're already falling into the construct of what our ears hear as music, whereas maybe some Aboriginal tribe somewhere who hasn't heard that stuff isn't going to be thinking about the major scale. But we've, in fact, been pretty much downloaded or brainwashed into major scale, major scale, major scale.
Right.
And so if you throw a few chords together that sound good, you're probably playing within a scale. And then when you're singing, your chances are you're singing within that scale. It'd be
Yeah.
almost impossible to do it unless you did not.
you would have to have two halves of the same mind.
Yeah, it would be very strange. Yes, Bart will be playing another
Jimmy.
song for us here.
Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
Do you know who that
He's
is?
a pro wrestler.
Oh, right, Jim the Anvil Knight. Okay.
But yeah, and that also is staying within the confines of that, which I'm guessing is the most natural thing for most of us. Going back to being accessible, it's a lot easier to sing along with Taylor Swift or something, even for an old guy like me, than it is to play along with Dream Theater.
Right.
Even though I love both those,
Right.
and I was listening to Dream Theater on the way here, but it's not as accessible. Those
Right.
guys don't fill stadiums, and they
Right.
don't get a lot of radio airplay, but it's amazing.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a reason for that too, right? It's like I think about a child's elementary songs, like these songs that are really very simple. That's why children love them, is because they're so accessible and they're so like
Absolutely.
you immediately feel like you know the song. But when you're talking something more advanced, just like someone whose palate grows over the years. As a child, you're eating real simple foods, and then later on you want to have peppers and vinegar and all sorts of stuff that you had never had as a kid. And music is the same way. But I think it's really important too to, like you said, to make sure that you know who you're writing for. So if you're writing country music, your job is not to get, like now you cannot. Back in the 90s you could, or in the 80s you could get really, not sappy, but you could get emotional. You could say, I'm an alcoholic and I hate my wife and this, that, and the other thing.
I need some help.
You can't say anything like that now.
Yeah.
But you could do it, but you can't say it. Which is kind of weird. It's like that's what country music was all about. It's like my I'm being honest is
Absolutely.
what it was. And now
Yep.
it's, I don't know.
Dude, you
It
can
is
go
what it
back
is.
and watch Waylon Jennings sing about the Dukes of Hazzard, but when you see his eyes, he was doing a lot of stuff back then.
Yeah. And he probably thought that was selling out too, I'm sure.
Yeah, who knows, man?
Yeah.
The storyteller sitting there with his telly.
Yeah.
I got to work with him for a while. He's awesome, man.
Really? Wow. Have you ever written a song almost to completion and then had to force in a hook after the fact?
Not necessarily force in, but we definitely change the hooks a lot. I mean, that's the whole thing about the song's not done until it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And you always have to remember to write for the song.
Yeah.
You know, I hate writing with people that I'll throw something out and they go, I don't like that. And I go, okay, well, what do you have?
Yeah.
Well, I don't have anything. I just don't like what you said.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so what are we going to do? Sit here and...
Yeah. Sit here and have you chop every idea I have
Yeah.
down. That's the first rule of improv. They say, right,
Dude.
don't say no.
Yeah.
It's like you got to say something else other than no or other than just not saying
Yeah.
anything, and then it keeps going.
Now, and don't also sit and demand your own line just because you want to get it in a song.
Yeah.
You got to write for the song.
Exactly.
And everybody that I've written a bunch with, some days you feel like crap. Some
Yeah.
days you feel great. Some days you write 100% of the song. Some days you write none of that song.
Yeah.
But over the course of your career and your friendship, it all evens out. So
Yeah.
don't sit there and
Yeah.
demand to get your way.
Yeah.
That doesn't help.
Yep. Yep. So you think about the Nashville number system a lot?
No.
No, not at all.
Mm-mm.
Do you know a 1 from a 4 from a 5 from a minor 6?
Kind of.
Kind of, really. So do you have a specific chord progression that James is asking you? Do you have a favorite chord progression?
Mm-mm.
No. And
I
no
just-
particular styles, blues, or no? You just do it all.
I've been in the studio and Billy Panda, great acoustic guy, has the best chord knowledge about anybody I know.
Mhm.
And he's just the sweetest cat in the world. But we were playing this work tape, and I played that chord.
Right.
And he goes, "Oh, what is that?" And I go, "It's that."
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, that's a flat 2 with an added ninth with a suspended 13." And I go,
Yeah.
"Yeah, you know what I call it? I call it that
Chord.
because I don't know
The
what
pretty
it is."
chord,
Yes. But my ears developed enough that I can make those chords up.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they're real chords.
Right. Sure.
But I can figure out a way to.
Melissa dated a guy and who was wanting to be in the music industry, and he said that he had invented a chord. And she said that was the day I knew it was over. I invented a chord.
No, you didn't.
There you go. No, you didn't.
Show it to me. Oh, yeah, that's called G. Way to go.
This is a good question, introspective question. What would you like to achieve in the next 5 years?
Oh, man. I don't know, because my wife and I's lives are changing so much. I don't know, man. That's a good question. That's a question that my dad would ask. Where do you
Yeah.
see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah, that's an on the spot one. You might have to think of that one a little
Yeah.
bit. What advice? So this one's from me. What advice would you give for aspiring songwriters? And I'd say if you could, maybe just address it overall. So whether they're planning on being a country songwriter or anything else, maybe just what it would be like for any songwriter of any genre, if you will, if you can.
First, you got to be honest with yourself, because you just may not be any good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard, but there's...
And do you feel that that's something that's developed? Or do you
No, it's
feel,
told to you.
do you, no, I mean, do you feel like that someone can suck at songwriting and never actually get it, or do you think
Oh,
if they're
sure.
hanging? Really? Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, I'll give you some names.
Okay.
But it's also like, right now, as much as I like some of the FGL stuff and the oldies, that's not really the way I write.
Right.
So I don't write that stuff.
Yeah.
That's like, I'm not good at that.
Right.
But also, man, it's hard, and it's getting harder. When I started writing, like the Brooks and Dunn song, that was the only song on that album that Kix and Ronnie didn't write.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, a lot of acts are writers now, or they think they are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's a lot harder. I mean, when I got started with...
I would like to. You finish that
Oh.
up, but I want to ask you about that in a minute.
Okay.
About artists writing. Remind me.
When I got my first full-fledged here's your money, there's the studio deal with Jeff, and all that. I think he said that, do these guys know what BMI and ASCAP is and stuff?
No, you'd have to
Okay.
just give them a
It's
snapshot.
it's called a PRO, Performance Right Organization.
BMI and ASCAP, you guys have heard of them before.
They collect money. So like
From the radio stations.
From radio stations. So he said that BMI told him that right now, back then, there are less professional songwriters than there are professional football players. And I was like, holy crap. And now I think there's like,
It's probably a tenth of that
yeah,
now.
it's way
I think that was
way
back in the
down.
day when there was probably 1,000 writers
Yeah.
or so here in
Yeah,
Nashville.
I'd say there's 200 maybe
Yeah.
real pros and artists.
Right.
And some artists are great writers, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and know how to write for themselves. And that's the other thing. If you write with an artist, understand you're only writing for them.
Right.
But
So what you at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you think.
Nope.
What's a good song or is a bad song.
enough about me. Let's talk about my new album. Oh,
Yeah.
great. But it's hard, and you have to really decide what your definition of success is. And if you think as an artist you're going to be the next Garth Brooks, if you think as a songwriter you're going to be the next Craig Wiseman, then you should probably get used to a lifetime of disappointment, because those things are, you know, a flash in the pan. It's hard.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get any money, and you're not going to get your own publishing for a while. And you got to realize that waiting tables is not always that fun.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable how many people were, you know, when you moved to Nashville, they're not waiting for you to, hey,
No.
come on in. We've been looking for a songwriter.
Play us some stuff.
It's not like that, of course. And so you've got to get another job, typically.
Yeah.
And one that comes to mind right now is Steph Jones. I don't know if you know her, but she was here in Nashville, and I remember her writing with Melissa, and she recorded right in this space when we were doing more recording here, demos and that sort of thing. And just amazing singer. And she was working at Starbucks for the longest time.
Yeah.
And just keeping her head down and
Yeah.
working hard. Now she's in LA. She just has a song for Pink.
Oh, cool.
You know, and it's like people go, yeah, but that's one story. But no, that's every single story. There's nobody that starts at the top in this game, whether it's a guitar player or songwriter or record promoter or a president, because there's way too much competition. And this is pretty much for the whole world in anything that you're looking at.
Yeah.
It's just like, let's get used to that. So what's next is your attitude, right, and your stick-to-itiveness, and
Find out what you're good at.
yeah.
Find out that, I mean, and I'm not bragging at all, but 95% of the time I'm the best guitar player in a writing room.
Yeah.
Which is fine, because I love playing guitar, but then that also means that you're going to be coming up with a lot of the music today.
Yeah. You're coming up with the riffs.
And so, so you got to really figure out and just get as laser focused as you can about that. But yeah, it's hard. I mean, yeah, man, I would not poo-poo on anybody's dreams, but you're up against the wall.
Yeah, yeah. Someone's asking, you've worked with Waylon, what was he like?
He was awesome. He, at the time he had carpal tunnel surgery, he had a cast on both wrists, which led me to wonder a lot of things about zipping his pants and
As an assistant.
how do you go to the bathroom.
Right,
Anyway,
yeah.
I broke my wrist, and I had a black cast on, and he came around the corner and he
Can
just
you
wrote,
request that? A black cast?
Oh yeah, you can get any color you
Really?
want. Yeah.
That's very metal of you. Yeah, I know. We both grew up. That's what we cut our
Haven't we
teeth on.
discussed that? And so he came around the corner before I ever was introduced to him or anything, and he just looked at me and he goes, "Man, everybody wants to be like Waylon," and he just walked off. I was like, yes, that's the coolest
That's
thing.
amazing.
And he was telling a story about the Highwaymen and how they didn't really get along all the time.
Which who were the Highwaymen?
It was Christopherson, Waylon, Willie Nelson, and
Johnny Cash.
Johnny
was it?
Cash.
Yeah.
And He said one day he never called Willie Willie. He always just called him Shorty.
Oh, dear Lord.
Well, because Willie was short.
Right, sure.
But he said, one day me and Shorty, he looked at me and he went, Shorty'd smoke a pickle if he could get it lit. And then he went right back to the story. It's like, what did you just say? I don't even, it was so outside. I don't even remember what the story was about.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
He'd smoke a pickle if he could get it lit. Dear God, that's amazing.
But he was awesome, man. I wish he was still around. I got to work the Waymore's Blues Part 2 album, which is still one of my favorite records of anybody of all time.
You worked with Shooter?
No.
Is he in town still?
No, he's in L.A. He just produced Duff
Which is his
McKagan's
son.
record, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was at a party one time, and there was a Shooter, and he had a beer in this hand, and a whiskey and a cigarette in this hand, and he had a .45 revolver tattooed here that said Shooter on the barrel, and I said, it's going to be tough to out Waylon, buddy.
Yeah.
But good luck.
Yeah, well, with a name like Shooter, you're gonna have a rebel for a kid, I'm thinking.
Probably.
Yeah.
A BGA rebel.
Jeez. Okay, someone's saying, Luke Bryan, thoughts. I'm not a big country follower, but that guy seems to get some major crap among some diehards. You don't have to answer if you don't want to.
I love Luke.
Mm-hmm.
He's been a good friend for a long time.
He's supposed to be a super sweet
great.
dude. My neighbor Eric, he's a cop, and he's done work with him. And
Oh,
stuff.
cool.
Protected him, I guess. Or,
Yeah, I've written, 20 songs with him. We never got anything going. I sold, what was his first song, All My Friends?
I don't know.
I think that in that video, he's playing a guitar that I sold him.
Oh, that's cool.
But I love him. He does get major crap, and he's laughing all the way to the bank. And it's like you said, not everybody's going to like everything. Yeah. That's okay.
And
You
he's
don't
supposed to
have
put on a great show.
It's
I've never
a
seen
great
him,
show,
but I understand that he just got a great attitude and puts on a great show. So
There's a program, Dan Rather, called The Big Interview.
Mm-hmm.
And he had Marty Stewart on there one time, who I also just adore.
Mm-hmm.
And you could tell Dan was kind of trying to get Marty to dig some crap. And he said, what do you think of all these young bucks and their trucks and the Daisy Dukes and
Did
everything?
that in the same inflection that he would do that, by the way. That's amazing.
And Marty saw right through it, and he goes, Dan, anybody that knows me, knows my music, knows I'm a classic country guy, and that's all I'm ever going to be. He goes, but it'd be pretty stupid of me to look at the guys that are selling out stadiums and try to point out what they're doing wrong. I thought that's the best answer you could.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Man.
It's all different music, and you don't have to particularly like it.
No.
God, all the stuff I grew up with, my parents weren't like, that's very beautiful. Right. I love that. Was that Judas Priest?
Why is he screaming for vengeance?
There was none of that going on. It was like, and so now when I listen to the stuff that my daughter listens to, which actually is way cool stuff, I'm like, she's got such a great ear. Thanks to me. That was me. I was playing ELO and Beatles and Radiohead and all this stuff when she was like 4.
Never heard of
until now. So
Never heard of them.
she's got some great influences. Bart's going to be doing a song for us here in just one moment. But I want to make sure, let's get to any last questions here that may be on Facebook. Let's see, Aaron Lewis, do you know who that is? Sings about drinking problems and she left me and so on, probably why he ain't on the radio.
Aaron was in Stained, I believe. And
Oh, that's a rock group.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
he's
that's
got a
metal,
country
right?
deal. He's been putting out
Really?
country stuff, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
Oh.
it's way more outlaw kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's probably, you're right, he does, and that's probably why he doesn't get a lot of
Yeah,
airplay.
if he was going straight to bro country, I think someone would call BS
More than
on
likely.
him.
More than likely.
In a band called Stained.
He
They were
does-
pretty heavy, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were very heavy.
He does like to come out and stand in front of the microphone and do his last song a cappella.
Mm-hmm.
And when he can't get the crowd to stop screaming, he's been known to curse at them a little and just walk off. That also might be why he's not getting a lot on the radio,
But he's being himself, and
He is.
that was rule 1.
hey,
So he's listening.
he's defined his own definition of success.
Do you think writing a song from a listener's perspective is more effective than writing a song from your own point of view? Okay, we talked about that. Yes. Sorry.
Only if you want money.
Yeah. Okay, I think we've gotten to all the questions here. Okay, let's see. Last questions here on last questions here on YouTube, and then Bart's going to be singing us a song here in just a moment.
I see there was a question just down at the bottom. I started playing guitar at 50. Do I still have a chance to start a band? Of course.
Of course.
You're never too old. There's, again, your definition of success. If you want to play at church, if you want to play at a bar, I mean, at 50, it might be a little old to be the next Rolling Stones. I don't know. But yeah, keep it up, man.
Man, it's all about, it really truly is all about what it is that you want to do. And that's, if you've heard anything in what we've talked about today, is that it's kind of behind the scenes, is that it doesn't matter what you do, someone's going to listen. So like someone who doesn't like Luke Bryan, or someone who doesn't like Aaron, or whoever, that's okay.
Absolutely.
Because my goodness, there's some people out there with record deals making records right now that I'm like, what is going on? Someone pooped on a record and stuck it in a package, and now I'm supposed to listen to this for real? I mean, it's like literally, just I don't get it. And I feel like I'm pretty open.
Sure.
With tons of music that I don't necessarily like, but I can go, oh wow, that's pretty cool, you know. But there's stuff out there that people have whole careers. So it just depends on what you do what you want to do with it. If you're trying to make money, obviously you need to please somebody, at least one person.
Yeah.
More would be better if you want to make if you want to feed yourself.
More is better.
Yeah, Taylor Swift figured that one out. And the cool thing about Taylor is I feel like she's being 100% honest.
Oh man, I think she.
And people go, that's crap, and it's like, actually, I kind of like the tunes. Like, it wouldn't be something that I would write.
Sure.
But it'd be fun as heck to play in her band.
But if you were a girl at 15 when she came out at 15, and you've grown up, she's still writing for you.
Exactly.
Now she's writing about broken hearts and stuff, that is happening to everybody.
Yeah.
Maybe didn't happen to you when you're 15.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's been, what an amazing ride, man, to be able to keep her audience in mind all the time when she's writing.
Yeah.
And they're sticking with her too, man.
Yeah, she's been pretty remarkable. Okay, Bart, I think that is it as far as the questions. I think we actually got to all the questions here, so that's pretty amazing. Bart, thank you so much for being on, brother. You are a good friend and just a wealth of knowledge in like all this stuff. And we just scratched the surface, so we'll probably have you on again. We would
That'd be
love
awesome.
to. So can you tell us about this next tune? What's it all about?
It's called Brand New Girlfriend, and Steve Holy had a #1 with it. And I wrote it with Jeffrey Steele and Shane Miner, or Shane Manure as I call him. And he's had an amazing life. He was ranked top 20 in the world as a bull rider. He was a LA cop. He's a hit songwriter. Dude.
That's crazy.
But the three of us were writing, and I can't believe we got anything done that day because we just laughed so much. But we wrote the first song, and then Jeffrey said, you guys want to go get some lunch? Which I've never had him do before, and I've never had him do since.
He doesn't break a write.
Nope. He'll just sit there.
But he's a night writer. He likes to write at night.
Yeah, but also at day, too. But you'll see he's got a big backpack, and it's full of Cliff Bars and whatever. It's like, I get where you're coming from. So we wrote a song, and on the way out, me and Shane had both started dating the two women that we're married to now. So I don't know how long ago it was. And I'm not exactly sure who says it. I think Shane said it. Shane thinks I said it, and Jeff says, I don't know. But anyway, somebody said, man, if we keep writing like this, we're all going to have to get brand new girlfriends. And Jeff goes, that's what we're writing after lunch. It's like, what? So we came back, and we wrote it, and I don't know, it was fun. We wrote 4 songs that day.
Yeah.
And he demoed
4 songs, wow.
And he demoed all of them. And Shane and I were going like, why the crap did he demo Brand New Girlfriend? That's such a dumb song. And sure enough, it was the only one that got cut, and it was a hit.
And went to #1.
Yep.
Yeah. So you gotta let the kids tell you what's
right.
what's good and bad. Yeah.
You gotta get to that 3rd chip in the Pringles can, buddy.
Beautiful. I love it.
Anyway, I'll play a little bit of it. Excuse me, I'm That's a lot of talking, man.
That's a lot of talking. You should see us on our 4-hour shows.
Oh.
Yeah, I wear a diaper.
Well, I'm wearing one now,
Yeah.
so we can keep going if you want. She said, I need some time to find myself. I need a little space to think. And maybe we should start seeing other people. Because, baby, things are moving way too fast for me. So I picked up what was left of my pride and put on my walking shoes. Got up on that high road, and I did what any gentleman would do. I got a brand new girlfriend. We went and jumped off the deep end. Flew out to LA for the weekend. Spent the whole week lying on the beach where with nothing but a smile, playing kissy kissy, squishy squishy, talking mushy mushy about nothing. Man, I think I'm on to something. Got a brand new girlfriend. Yeah, I think her name is Marianne. I got a brand new girlfriend.
I love
I
it.
totally jacked that.
I love it. Brother, thank you so much,
Thank
man.
you.
Come
I
on,
love
get
you,
it.
man.
Bring it in. All right, my friends. Till next week. We should be on for Tuesday at 11 a.m. next week. If the creek don't rise, whatever that expression is, and the power isn't out, and all that good stuff. All right? Thanks again, Bart.
Awesome. Thank you.